Hi, I'm Susie, and I'm so happy that you're here to join me today. In my previous video, I shared with you our experience after living in Thailand for quite a while. And like I said, it was supposed to be just a 2-week trip after India and before going to Bali. But we ended up staying longer because we just fell in love with it right away. Now, being a short term visitor and a long stayer in a foreign country is a night and day difference. If you're just staying for a short period, of course, the priority is to check out highly recommended destinations so you don't end up feeling like you missed out on those destinations that people are raving about. On the other hand, if you're staying longer, then you have more time and energy in your hands to really get to know the country and its people. Which is why I would like to share with you these 6 things I learned about Thailand that I never knew until I lived there. So, once again, thank you for joining me today. And in case it's your first time to visit my channel, let me give you a brief background of what it's all about. So, this is a space where I share my journey to living simply, slowly, and mindfully. I also share some minimalist travel tips and some of my experience living as an expat abroad and how I am able to maintain a slower and simpler pace of life. So, if you're also in this journey to a more intentional and slower pace of life, I hope you would consider subscribing to my channel and clicking that bell so you get notified each time I post a new video on these topics, which is every Saturday. Now, coming from another Southeast Asian country, I thought that things were already as cheap as they can get until I came to Thailand. But it's not just the cheaper price tag, but it's also the better quality that you get for what you pay. For example, is rent. When I was in my home country, I was renting a small apartment, about 40 square meters, 1 bedroom, and it's only semi-furnished, which means we had to bring some of our own appliances and furniture with us. And it cost us $200 a month. On the other hand, when we were renting a house in Chiang Mai, it was much bigger, about 130 square meters. It's fully furnished, and basically we just came there with our clothes and small appliances such as our blender and our instant pot and a few plates and utensils. And the house cost us $400 a month to rent. So it's a better deal for the price we pay. Now, if you don't plan on staying on one particular place longer and you prefer to rent it per week or for just 6 months or less, then there are guest houses that are available for as low as $10 a night. So it's complete as well with everything you need. So it's also fully furnished, and then there's internet connection, especially, which is very important if you have an online job or you manage your business online. And another thing that I learned about Thailand is that food is generally cheaper there. Now, I understand that there are also cheaper restaurants in other countries, but for someone who is doing plant-based, I think it's a little easier to find cheaper restaurants in Chiang Mai, Thailand, because you can go to roadside restaurants and find a wide variety of plant-based foods, and the portions are also bigger. For example, you can get a rice dish, a few curries, and then some vegetables for as low as $2. Another thing that I learned about Thailand that I never knew until I lived there was the Sabai mentality. So it is about living a slower pace of life and enjoying what nature has to offer, which is according to the Buddhist philosophy. So it's going with the flow of life instead of resisting it, and to accept and surrender to the cycles and the process. Just like with nature, there's a time to sow, a time to bloom, a time to grow, and then a time to harvest. And they also follow that in their day-to-day life. There's always a season for everything, and when you rush things, it doesn't really go too well. And that is also one of the reasons why when I am in Thailand, I feel this prevailing energy of gentleness and calm. That is why I think Sabai Sabai is a good mentality, because it's all about not rushing, which also helps for people who are constantly anxious and afraid. In Thailand, specifically in Chiang Mai, I never really felt like a foreigner. When I would go to other countries, I always felt like a tourist, people wanting to show me stuff and to sell me things. But in Chiang Mai, I can go about my own business and feel like I'm in a familiar place, even if I've never been there before. It could be that some people mistake me for being Thai, so they speak to me in Thai and treat me like a local. I don't really know, but that is just this. So this is probably a subjective and a personal thing, which is different for other people, but to me, it is what I have experienced. Another thing that I learned about Thailand is that you can go to a restaurant, a coffee shop, or a public transport and still have your peace and quiet. The locals are soft-spoken people, and they do not act in such a boisterous way. Another thing about Thailand, and in particular Chiang Mai, is that you can go to a couple of national parks, gardens, caves, and other scenic places and not have to pay anything. There are some national parks that you really have to pay an entrance fee to enter, but in our experience, we have been to Obkan National Park, for example, in Hangdong, and also we have been to some beautiful hikes such as in Doi Pui or Doi Sutep. We have also done some detours that led us to some of the most beautiful places that we've ever seen. So if you're staying longer in Thailand, it's easy to do that because you have time to get lost and take off the beaten paths and discover new places that you have never heard of before, because not many people know them and it's not on everyone's radar. And lastly, Thailand has a bustling coffee scene. There's lots of coffee shops and cafes anywhere you go. There are roadside coffee shops, there are cafes at the top of the hill, and it's really interesting as well because they can get so creative with their themes. For example, they have a Japanese tea house, also have an English country house cafe theme. And then we went to this cafe called Banok Roasters, and they had vintage items displayed, like an old Vespa, a bunch of old television sets from the 1960s or something, old school telephones, and it's just very interesting. It's like going to a museum and a coffee shop in one. And there are also cafes with scenic views that you can just sit there and enjoy your drink while at the same time soaking in the beautiful view around you. They have a restaurant that is inside a farm, and then a cafe with a beautiful view of the mountain and the reservoir. As a tourist, it's hard to really get to know a foreign country when you have a limited time to be there. But if you're staying in a country longer, then you have time to explore and discover new destinations that you have never read about or watched from other videos before. And sometimes the most memorable destinations and experiences are those that you have just stumbled upon because you decided to take a new or different route. So I hope you enjoyed this video for today. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Wishing you well, and I hope you'll have a beautiful day or evening. and I'll see you again next Saturday.